For Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Ilan Solomons, and I'm joined today by Ray Hartley, editor of the Rand Daily Mail, to discuss his latest book, The Big Fix: How South Africa Stole the 2010 World Cup. Can you explain why you decided to write this book 6 years after the World Cup?
I was editor of the Sunday Times at the time, and we had lots of stories, lots of fantastic positive stories which we ran very prominently, but also lots of other stories questioning aspects of the World Cup. And you know, that story tended to get drowned out at the time because there was such a wave of patriotism over the World Cup of, you know, we must show the world, show the Afro-pessimists that they're wrong. And we all got behind it, and we strung the flags up in the newsrooms, and you know, we put them on the mirrors of the cars, and we wore our yellow shirts on Friday. And you know, the stories that raised issues about corruption and stuff just got swept under the carpet, you know. But they were quite serious things. And then last year, when the FIFA incident occurred, and there were arrests of very prominent people, and this stuff came out about South Africa's World Cup bid, I thought it was time to write the book.
How has the book been received to date?
I've had lots of very positive response. People love it. You know, we're a nation that can take the truth about something. We don't have to live with pretense that the World Cup was perfect. I mean, I still think on balance it was a brilliant event for the country, and we really did do it well, you know. And whatever Danny Jordan may or may not have been involved with, you can't take away from him the fact that he organized an absolutely spectacular World Cup.
You write in the book that you're very critical of how South Africa attained the 2010 World Cup. Do you feel in some ways that the corruption was justified as a result of what happened in 2006 with our failed attempt to win the World Cup, because of alleged FIFA corruption and German government interference?
Yeah, I think, you know, I mean, it's a very dangerous argument to make, because then what you're saying is that we should trust our public officials to do corrupt stuff when it's in the national interest, and we don't need to know about it. They can do it quietly, and they can use our money to do it. It's a very slippery slope. It's a very dangerous thing to do. But I think more than that, I disagree, you know. I think it would have been an absolute outrage if South Africa had not won. I mean, the bid book was rated highest by FIFA. We were clearly the superior bid. We had Nelson Mandela in our corner. I think there would have been major questions asked if Morocco had won that bid. And it could have been very, very damaging for FIFA and FIFA's credibility. And I think we could have just folded our arms and said, okay, if it's a corrupt process and you're going to not let what is obviously the best bid win, live with the consequences. And that was an option. And we decided not to do that. And I think once you get into the machinery like that and you play by the rules, and the rules are rotten, you're heading for very dangerous territory.
What impact do you believe the 2010 bid has had on the reputation of South Africa in terms of this alleged corruption?
Well, I think it's negative. You know, I mean, I think a lot of the goodwill that was generated out of the World Cup may have been rolled back by this information about how we went about getting it, you know, and that again, there's another reason not to do it. You know, you might make the short-term gain, but should it come out, and it certainly has, then what? You know, then you're in the limelight for all the wrong reasons. So, yeah, it's a difficult one. Yeah, I think that what happened here really though is that they found themselves in a system that was fundamentally corrupt, and the most corrupt person was Jack Warner, and they found themselves short of these 3 votes that Warner controlled, and they did everything. They flew Mandela to Trinidad and Tobago. He was ill. Warner met with him, did the photo opportunities, did the press conferences, shook hands, had lunch, and then right at the end said, not persuaded yet. I'm still undecided. You know, because we know there's only one thing that could make up his mind. And I think that's where the South Africans then erred by agreeing to this diaspora legacy payment. We could have held out, you know.
Reflecting back on the tournament itself, do you think that it's been unfairly tarnished as a result of this corruption that's emerged subsequently? Should we still take pride in hosting such a successful tournament in terms of administrative and logistical issues that were so fantastically well run?
I think absolutely. We pulled together as a nation. We made it happen. The organization was superb. You know, no games were late. There were no incidents of crime involving any of the teams. The lights didn't go off, despite the fact that at the time there was, you know, serious doubts about that. And you know, it worked. And Danny Jordan actually showed himself to be a pretty competent organizer. And you can't really take that away. There are aspects which I think were questionable. The extent to which we handed over our sovereignty to FIFA, suspending, you know, legislation around foreign exchange, around taxation, even aspects of the competition legislation were suspended. You know, we really did go very far to bow to FIFA's demands. And instead of building a stadium in Athlone in Cape Town where people play football and would be there from week to week, we built one in Greenpoint because FIFA wanted a stadium here in this beautiful part of the city. And things like that were mistakes.
In your view, were there any individuals that can hold their head up high during this 2010 World Cup and the process that led up to the hosting of it?
Yeah, there were people who stood up against it, and the most prominent of those was Jimmy Motlala, the speaker of the Mbombela municipality. And he was shot dead on January the 9th, 2009, because he questioned the process of building that stadium. And one of the things he questioned was that the land on which the stadium was built was bought for R1 from the community. And the community had got that land back in a post-apartheid restitution process. And the trust that they trusted went and sold it for R1. And he was outraged by that and questioned that. And then he questioned aspects of the construction contract around that. And he's a real hero, you know, and he deserves to be, I don't know, you know, part of doing this book is to say a man's life was lost trying to clean up this World Cup. Let's remember that. And then there are others like Steve Goddard in SAFA who try to blow the whistle on the crooked referees. Didn't go far enough, and he's been banned along with several other officials because he was head of referees at the time. And then the Competition Commission did its job as well, you know, ahead of the World Cup. These stadium contracts were rigged, and afterwards they exposed that and they extracted a $1.5 billion fine. So there were aspects that worked, but there are aspects that really did not work. The criminal justice system, you know, they haven't charged anyone for Jimmy Motlala's murder. No one's in jail 7 years later. They're witnesses that saw what happened. No one's been charged over the bribery scandal or investigated. We're not really doing anything. We're leaving it to the FBI. You know, it's match fixing. Again, no criminal action has been taken. So those are failings.
And finally, in terms of the book itself, what do you hope that people get out of it, particularly South African sports administrators that will be involved in bidding for future tournaments?
And I think the key lesson is that it will come out. You know, you can't hide these things. In a major, it always takes a major organization to pull this together. There are very many people involved, and the truth will out. You know, eventually you are going to be exposed if you cut corners. So the message is very simple. You know, do it clean, do it above board. Don't be tempted to take the shortcuts or to take the easy money. And it's quite possible to do that, you know. I mean, we have hosted other tournaments here which haven't been rocked by corruption. And unless somebody comes forward and exposes that, you know, it's clear that it's possible, it can be done.
That was Ray Hartley of the Rand Daily Mail discussing his latest book, The Big Fix, How South Africa Stole the 2010 World Cup.